Historically, a series of powerful invaders, the Philistines, Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians, conquered the land of Canaan, which the Hebrews called Israel. The Hebrew tribes of Manasseh and Dan joined forces and became the Macedonians, or Macedonians. They fled to Greece with their gold and their riches. They wore white kilts like the Egyptian pharaohs, played goatskin bagpipes, adopted the Greek culture, and settled along the river Danube, which they named after the tribe of Dan. By 322 BC, their leader, Alexander the Great, reconquered Egypt and appointed his general, Ptolemy I, as the new Hebrew pharaoh of Egypt. Cleopatra was the last in a succession of Hebrew Ptolemy kings. Although Cleopatra is considered to be the last of the Egyptian pharaohs, author Ralph Ellis claims that Jesus was the last of the Hebrew pharaohs of Egypt. Jesus, a pharaoh? How is that possible? The historical facts show that the last pharaoh of Egypt was Ptolemy XV, who was nicknamed Caesarion, or Little Caesar. Born in 47 BC, Caesarion was the son of two of the most famous parents in world history, Roman ruler Julius Caesar and Egyptian pharaoh Cleopatra. When Caesarion's mother, Cleopatra, proclaimed herself to be the reincarnation of the virgin goddess Isis, Caesarion became the son of a virgin mother goddess. When Caesarion's father, Julius Caesar, was elevated to the status of God by the Roman Senate, Caesarion was recognized as the son of God and heir to God's kingdom, the Roman Empire. Caesarion was also recognized as the son of God in Egypt, after his mother named him co-ruling pharaoh of Egypt. Cleopatra declared Caesarion to be the king of kings at the age of 13 during the donations of Alexandria ceremony in 34 BC. The face of history suddenly changed when Caesarion's father, Julius Caesar, was stabbed to death by his most trusted men. Octavian, the adopted son of Julius Caesar, swiftly seized power as the new Roman emperor. After Caesar's death, Cleopatra became romantically involved with a married commander from Caesar's army named Mark Antony. Mark Antony and Cleopatra parented 3 children, a twin boy and girl, followed by a second boy. Since Caesarion was Julius Caesar's son and the rightful heir to the Roman Empire, Cleopatra feared for his safety. When Octavian's mighty Roman army invaded Egypt, Cleopatra arranged for Caesarion's safe passage out of Egypt with her most trusted servants. Historians confirm that Cleopatra sent Caesarion to India. There are no historical records of Caesarion's fate, despite false rumors of his capture. Cleopatra's trusted servants who traveled with Caesarion became the boy's parent guardians. But who exactly were these parent guardians who Cleopatra entrusted her son to? Were their names Mary and Joseph by any chance? While Caesarion fled from Egypt with his parent guardians, Cleopatra and Mark Antony's 3 children were placed in the care of Mark Antony's wife. After suffering a crushing defeat against Octavian's invading Roman army, Mark Antony committed suicide by falling on his own sword. The devastated Cleopatra also committed suicide by a self-inflicted poisonous snake bite. While traveling undercover through Egypt with his parent guardians, Caesarion was forced to hide his identity and change his name. The Egyptian name for Jesus is Isu, which means the son of Isis. It can be found in Egyptian hieroglyphics. Matthew 2, verses 13 and 14 of the Bible tell a parallel story of the young child Jesus and his mother fleeing into Egypt with Joseph under the cover of night.
In the year 1887, a book was published in Russia which rocked the Christian world. It was vilified and condemned. It was called The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. The writer, Nicholas Notovich, was a respected journalist. Notovich claimed his book was a factual report of a trip he made to the Himalayan mountains in remote northern India. Notovich may well have been the first outsider to make his way to Hemis, an isolated Buddhist monastery hidden high in the Asian mountaintops. Gaining the confidence of an elderly monk, he was shown ancient scrolls which tell the story of a scholar and prophet named Issa. In these secret records, Issa is described as a foreigner from a small Mediterranean country. The stranger arrived in India as a teenage boy to study the teachings of the Buddha. And according to the scrolls, he lived here 500 years after the prophet Buddha died, a time that coincides exactly with the lost years of Jesus. A time that coincides exactly with the lost years of Jesus. Nicholas Notovich was convinced that Issa was Jesus of Nazareth, and that he carried back to his homeland the principles of Buddhism. Half a century after Notovich was in Hemis in 1902, a Hindu priest sought refuge in the same remote Indian monastery. He too translated the scrolls and published a work. His translation verifies the work of Notovich.
Ancient writings do exist from both Persia as well as India that Jesus did indeed travel to India, but we do not have 100% proof that he was there. The proof, however, does lie in his teachings when compared to sacred Buddhist writings.
The authenticated ancient scrolls found at the Hemis Monastery near Leh in Kashmir document the life of Saint Issa, leaving home at the age of 13, joining a merchant caravan, traveling the Silk Route, and arriving in India at the age of 14. The Egyptian word for Jesus is Isu, the Greek word is Iesus, and the Arabic word for Jesus is Isa. Issa continued his travels through India and Tibet and the holy cities, where Brahmin priests taught him to read and understand the Vedas. He learned Pali and studied the sacred sutras and how to cure by aid of prayer. He began teaching, performing miracles, and explaining the holy scriptures in monasteries and market bazaars. As an adult, Issa finally left India and Tibet and traveled to Alexandria, Egypt. Why Alexandria? Because that's where Issa, whose previous name was Caesarion, grew up. That's where he last saw his mother, Cleopatra, alive. Issa spent 3 years in Egypt before searching for his younger half-sister and 2 younger half-brothers fathered by Mark Antony. They had inherited land in Syria. Despite false rumors of their early deaths, historians confirm that Caesarion and his 2 half-brothers mysteriously vanished from the historical record. Did they really vanish, or did they just reappear in the biblical record? According to the Bible, 2 of Jesus' 12 disciples were named James and Thomas. The Bible identifies James and Thomas as full brothers. Jesus, on the other hand, is identified as their half-brother. Thomas is not only identified as Jesus' younger half-brother, he is also called Jesus' twin. But how could Thomas possibly be Jesus' younger half-brother and his twin at the same time? The historical records show that Cleopatra had 3 children fathered by Mark Antony. 2 of them were a twin boy and girl. Isa Caesarion clearly had a younger half-brother who is also a twin. At the scene of the crucifixion, there were 2 Marys present. One was Mary of Bithynia. When Roman Emperor Octavian invaded Egypt, Cleopatra sent her 13-year-old son Caesarion to India with Mary of Bithynia and Mary's wealthy uncle-husband named Joseph of Arimathea. Since Caesarion was the true heir to the Roman Empire, Emperor Octavian wanted him killed. Mary and Joseph became Caesarion's adoptive parents and later his loyal disciples. The second Mary present at the crucifixion was Jesus' younger half-sister, Mary Magdalene, whose birth name was Selene. She is also identified in the Bible as Mary of Cleopas, meaning Mary of Cleopatra. Selene was the orphan daughter of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, who both committed suicide. After being captured by Emperor Octavian, Selene was raised in Octavian's royal household with her 2 brothers and with Octavian's son, Tiberius, who became the next Roman emperor. They were raised together by the emperor's sister, Octavia. Selene eventually married and became the Queen of Mauritania. Like her mother Cleopatra, Selene wore the headdress of the goddess Isis. Selene's half-brother Caesarion finally returned to Egypt after 17 years in hiding. He searched for Selene and found her. He was now called Jesus Christ, a name with the same initials as his father, J.C., for Julius Caesar. He told Selene about his plan to capture his father's kingdom, the Roman Empire, which Emperor Octavian had stolen from him. He told her he would capture it not with weapons and armies, but by creating a new religion and transforming the Roman Empire into the Holy Roman Empire. Selene agreed to join her brother's spiritual revolution. She changed her name from Selene to Magdalene by adding the word Magda to her name, which means high place in Hebrew. Jesus Caesarion also searched for and found his 2 half-brothers, one of whom was Selene's twin. His nickname was Thomas Didymus, which means twin in Greek and Hebrew. 17 years after her suicide, Cleopatra's 4 children were all reunited again. Why are the pages of the Bible silent about where Jesus was and what he did for 17 years from the age of 13 to 30?
Perhaps the most unusual legend of the missing years recounts a journey that would have taken Jesus thousands of miles from Nazareth. He would have traveled across 2 seas to England, a land whose history would become intertwined with Christian mythology. To this day, in southern England, in Cornwall, villagers speak of Jesus having once walked here. Beneath these rolling meadows, the earth is laced with tin. 2,000 years ago, the story goes, the gospel character Joseph of Arimathea came to England to trade for the precious metal. And according to the legend, he brought with him his nephew, Jesus of Nazareth. At that time, ancient England was inhabited by the pagan Celts. Their religious leaders, the Druids, believed they were descended from a divine being. They also believed in an immortal soul. Some people in these valleys speculate that the Druids adapted their pagan religion to Christianity, not because they had heard stories of the Messiah, but because they had seen him. However, most scholars believe that it was the conquering Romans who arrived 2 centuries later who would convert the Druids to Christianity by persuasion and genocide. Since they were first found in a desert cave in 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls have fueled speculation about the life of Jesus. Was he a member of the religious community which wrote the scrolls? They were found at Qumran, an easy walk from the very spot where it is said Jesus was baptized by John. The scrolls detail the beliefs of a Jewish sect called the Essenes, a group that flourished during the lifetime of Jesus. The beliefs of the Essenes often seem to mirror the teachings of Jesus.
Zealots.
Jesus' band of revolutionaries included not only the Essenes, but a violent Hebrew terrorist group called the Zealots, who evolved into today's Zionists.
We're going to a wedding.
There is speculation that Jesus married his half-sister, Mary Magdalene. The Bible describes a wedding party in which Jesus uses his godly powers to magically turn water into wine for the party guests. Why did the Bible fail to name the names of the bride and groom at the wedding party? Is it because the names of the bride and groom were Jesus and Mary Magdalene? Since Jesus Caesarean learned the art of healing and meditation in India, and since he was provided with a foot support to stand on the cross, and since he was taken down from the cross after only 6 hours, and since he was treated with expensive royal healing oils, did he survive the wounds of his crucifixion? Since Jesus and his wealthy Hebrew relatives all knew about Jesus' arrest and crucifixion in advance, was it planned, along with stories of his resurrection, to convert the Roman Empire into the Holy Roman Empire?
My daughter, my daughter.
Like his father Julius Caesar, who was officially elevated to the status of God, Jesus Caesarean was not only elevated to the status of God, he recaptured his father's kingdom and expanded the Holy Hebrew Empire all the way to Great Britain and the United States of America.
What then, little king?
A review of royal genealogy charts confirms that today, Israel, Great Britain, and the United States are all ruled by descendants of the Hebrew tribes of Israel. The big question is, if Caesarean was born in 47 BC, how could Caesarean possibly be Jesus? Jesus was born in the year 0, wasn't he? To begin with, the year 0 does not exist on today's Gregorian Christian calendar, which jumps from 1 BC to 1 AD. Experts confirm a 7-year error was made in converting from the Egyptian to the Roman to the Christian calendar. The only way to calculate Jesus' real age is from a Bible quote which states that Jesus was baptized in the 15th year of the reign of Emperor Tiberius. Since Tiberius grew up in Octavia's royal household with Caesarean's half-sister and brothers, that means Caesarean was very close in age to Tiberius, who was born in 3 BC. By comparing important dates in the Jewish, Muslim, and Christian holy books, there is a margin of error of at least 30 years. So what proof is there that Caesarean's half-sister Selene is in fact Mary Magdalene? They were both wealthy, They both shared the same names, they were both Hebrew, and they both lived in the same place at the same time under the same Roman rulers. The most convincing proof lies in a famous New York statue. The Statue of Liberty was financed, built, and delivered to New York Harbor as a gift from the French Grand Orient Temple Masons in 1886, with a commemorative plaque for all to see. The statue has nothing whatsoever to do with liberty. Its designer was French Freemason Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, who traveled extensively throughout Egypt. Bartholdi was silent about who the woman was that served as his inspiration for the statue, but there is only one woman whose face closely matches the uniquely masculine features of the Statue of Liberty, Caesarion's half-sister, Selene. Bartholdi used the ancient busts and minted coins of Cleopatra Selene as his models in designing the Statue of Liberty. By comparing a digitized photograph of the Statue of Liberty with a bust of Cleopatra Selene, the matching identity of Mary Magdalene and Selene becomes clear. The lips, the mouth, the sharp jaw, the thick neck, the protruding ears, the prominent nose, and the masculine features are a close match. An ancient minted coin of Cleopatra Selene reveals that even her hairstyle and hair tie ribbons are an identical match with An ancient minted coin of Cleopatra Selene reveals that even her hairstyle and hair tie ribbons are an identical match with the Statue of Liberty's hairstyle and ribbons. The Statue of Liberty was intentionally designed to appear pregnant beneath the folds of her robe. The implication is that Mary Magdalene had children. Their names were Tamar and Jesus the Justice, whom the Merovingians, British royalty, and elite brotherhood of Freemasons claimed to be descendants of. With the blur of confusing Judases, Thomases, Jameses, Marys, and Josephs found in the Bible, many researchers have been challenged by the Bible's name game and its who's who mysteries. One way of decoding the Bible is to profile the main cast of characters and create a royal genealogy chart. The connection between the lives of the main Bible characters and the lives of real historical figures line up like answers in a crossword puzzle. Far from being poor and uneducated, Jesus' inner circle of family and disciples were well-educated and well-off descendants of royalty. The disciple called Nicodemus of Bethany was in reality the son of Nicomedes IV of Bithynia. Joseph of Arimathea was in reality Joseph of Judea, an extremely wealthy tin merchant and descendant of King Zedekiah and Mattathias. The Virgin Mary of Bethany was in reality Mary of Bithynia and wife of her rich uncle Joseph of Judea. Mary Magdalene, Jesus of Nazareth, Thomas, and James were the wealthy royal offspring of Hebrew-Egyptian Ptolemy queen Cleopatra VII. Why did the Bible alter and even omit key historical names and dates? To cover up the real Hebrew identities of the royal ruling families of Egypt and the Holy Roman Empire, whose secret religion was and still is the cult of Amen. Why in the world did first-century Jews living at the time of Jesus threaten to punish by death anyone who dared to copy, sculpt, or draw the face of Jesus and his graven image? What were they afraid of? Were they afraid, perhaps, he might be recognized for who he really was?